Hello. Episode 7 of Series 12 of Doctor Who, Can You Hear Me, deals with several issues such as cancer scares, suicide attempts and overall depressive complaints. If any of these things are stuff you are dealing with and you can't handle, your escapism to deal with this, be warned. This episode deals with it and this recap will deal with it as well. Please be advised. Hi, I'm your dad now. I wear a tie. Yeah, don't get used to it. So, episode 7 of Series 12, Can You Hear Me? That was a belter. I loved it. This is my favourite episode of the series so far. Not just because of the light on my camera going off again. I mean, I seriously should get that checked out sometimes. It gives us a villain, and oh my god, they don't explain everything about them, and stuff happens, and it just goes, merging all these weird set pieces together to form like a single cohesive. And I loved it. It's great. And the only thing that a little bit bothered me was that the resolution to beating the bad guys was a little bit quick and, not entirely out of left field. I mean, they set it up, but it was resolved rather quickly. Quick recap. So, the Doctor brings Jazz to Earth for a specific date in a specific time to meet up with Sister, and Ryan goes to meet with one of his friends who he's been getting messages from for like months but he hasn't responded to, and Graham plays some cards. In the meantime, the Doctor goes to Aleppo in 1380 because there's these ape-like werewolf monsters. The trailers of this episode made it seem like this was going to be the thing. The entire episode was going to be like Aleppo, early medieval times, bloody big ape monsters. That's what the trailers promised us. What did we get instead? We get a guy, I don't know his name. Zellin, Doctor Who.
Here's a summary from the Mirror.
Don't worry, Uncle Scooby. Scrappy-Doo to the rescue! What?
Ian Gelder. He was in Torchwood, Children of Earth, and Game of Thrones apparently, but nearly every English actor was in Game of Thrones. Charles Dance was in Game of Thrones. Anyway, Ian Gelder delivers such a great villain. I loved him to bits. He's just like, he never raises his voice, he never does a maniacal speech. He does do speech, but not like insane. And he just delivers them in such a matter-of-factly kind of way, and I loved him to bits. I hope they bring him back. I forgot the name of his partner in crime, but no, never mind. Let's keep going. So the Doctor brings everybody along because Jazz's sister gets kidnapped, Ryan's mate gets kidnapped, Graham is getting visions of this lady trapped somewhere. So they use the TARDIS as telepathic circuits, which don't no longer look like the gelatin, but rather like Cerebro from the X-Men. Okay, but moving on. So they're in a space station in the future with the lady from Aleppo who was chased by ape-like werewolves, and you're still following me here, right? With the bald dude played by Ian Gillan, who has detachable fingers, who creates nightmares in the future on a space station, and they're looking at two planets colliding, which is a prison for someone. This is absolutely bloody mental, and I love every second of it. My God. So, the Doctor frees the person in the prison, and then it turns out, this was my evil plan all along. Zellin, played by Ian Gillan, who was in Game of Thrones, but every British actor was in Game of Thrones, tricked the Doctor into freeing his equal, but she's more powerful than him. Like she feasts on fear, and he instills fear in people. So he's like I don't really know how to put it. Yeah, I don't care. They named up so many classic villains. They named up the Eternals from Enlightenment, the Fifth Doctor story, where Turlough finally joins the TARDIS crew for realsies. They named up the Celestial Toymaker, which is kind of a racist caricature, but moving on. From William Hartnell's era, they named up the Guardians from Tom Baker, and again, like the Black Guardian was the entire story arc for Turlough as well. And my God, it just, the way they acted, they felt like they were on the same level, like these godlike beings so far above the Time Lords. It's nice to have these creatures that are a step up above the Time Lords. It makes the Doctor feel still relatively, you know, a little bit more less special. I English very well. And we get these dreams, and these dreams of Graham, Jazz and Ryan, they're hurtful for the characters. It's nice to delve into them a little bit more. But, you know, the Doctor escapes after seeing a vision of the Timeless Child, which is like the story arc. And then they go to Aleppo, and they use a giant ape-like werewolf to grab the two gods, and they use the prison sphere and the fingers connected to the technology that Zelen put in the space station, and it was like, bam, it's done. And I didn't quite like that. I did like the aftermath, that they gave the episode a little bit more time to breathe, to deal with all the issues brought up. It feels like a very special episode, like kids don't do drugs, but these are sometimes important issues media can talk about, media should talk about. I know we've done this, I want to say recently, but it's not recent anymore. Vincent and the Doctor, you know, the episode in 2011, I think. Matt Smith's first series. It dealt with this as well, with depression and how you can't always, you know, magically solve everything with the time travel. And I like to think this got the message across as well, very well. Like Graham's cancer scare, I'm glad they didn't go back to him being sad about Grace. Like, Grace's death has done some heavy lifting for his angst, even though they don't show the angst on screen very much. But it shows that when you get the disease, there's always a part of your brain that's busy with it. I didn't clock onto this the first time around, but the second time around with Yaz, it became very clear to me that it's hinted to be a suicide attempt, or at least a suicide run, because she's out by herself running away. She doesn't bring a bag. Why would you run away and not bring anything? Why would you need to be stopped by a police officer? Why would you need to be checked up again in several years? Because this was what the wager was about. The police officer asks Jazz to check up in 3 years for 50 quid to show that she's still alive. I could be wrong here. I could just be heavily reading into things. It feels like when Jazz's sister in the dream says, "No one's coming this time," there's a finality to it. Like, this is the end. Ryan's is a bit more weird. I've seen people say like, "Oh, Ryan's afraid of global warming because the Morlock, the Dreg from Orphan 55 shows up." But I felt it was more like Ryan has been written as missing out on his life. This is what he said this before. Like, they can come back anytime they want to, but they will have changed. He sees his friend old, and he's missed every chance he had to save him. And in this case, Earth being on fire. Yeah, well, okay, that's the global warming bit, but it's like, it was the end of the world in that episode. The world ended and mankind wasn't there to stop it. So Ryan wasn't there to help his friend. I feel horrible for not knowing the character's name, but his friend suffering from depression is something that hit me personally. I've been there. I'm still there. You know, even though it was like a television set, like a TV series set, I mean, and they say like, oh, your house is a mess. This is not you. I know that scenario. It's difficult when you're dealing with things to have the mental upkeep to also go into chores. I mean, even when you're unemployed and you basically should have all the time in the world, you can let your surroundings go into disarray because you just can't bring it up to deal with it. It takes mental effort. And the fact that they put a very recognizable thing like that in this episode, it's yeah, that hurt me a little bit. I'm glad it was there. I'm glad the show showed him getting help, and that there's no shame in getting help. There is no shame in getting help. Yeah, it's a bit of a bittersweet thing. Maybe this is why I like this episode so much? Question mark. Because on the whole, it has a fantastic set of villains with like limitless potential who go crisscross across time, and they bring together medieval times and modern times and the future and collapsing planets, and in the end we're still talking about the human beings and not about the aliens. I really like this episode. I think I'll revisit it in the future. It's definitely, alongside the fact that it has a little bit of story arc development, it really feels like a must-watch in the future. I think this is gonna be like one of the standout episodes of this series, series 12. Yeah, normally I joke about like insult me in the comments down below, but after all that real talk, I don't think I can do it this time around. So next week we're getting like meeting with Mary Shelley, and Mary Shelley was the inventor of modern sci-fi in a way. Like with Frankenstein, it was like the first concept of science fiction, I believe, and she was goth as all hell. And you know, the husband of what's her face in Spyfall, the lady, I forgot her name. I'm really not good with names. That's the attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Anyway, I hope to see you soon. See ya.